In a quiet corner of the galaxy, there was a group of peaceful alien races called the Valari Alliance. They lived on green worlds full of forests, rivers, and mountains. The Valari were gentle beings who loved beauty, art, and science. They believed in peace and worked together to build a calm and kind life. Their ships were small and made for travel and study, not war. They had no armies. They believed war belonged to the past, but peace did not last. From the edge of deep space, the Zarn horde came. Their ships were large, dark, and full of weapons. The Zarn were a violent species. They lived only to conquer and destroy. No one knew where they came from. They attacked without warning. They burned cities. They captured worlds. They killed without mercy. The Valari were not ready. Their ships were too weak. Their people were afraid. They tried to run, but there was nowhere to hide. One by one, their colonies fell. Fires rose from the forests. Their skies were filled with black smoke. The Valari Alliance met in secret. Leaders from all the member worlds gathered to talk. The council chamber was quiet. Faces were full of fear. Some leaders cried, others sat in silence. They had never known war. They did not know what to do. One of them, Councillor Dean, stood. He was old and wise. He looked around the room and said, "We cannot fight this enemy, but maybe someone else can." They had one choice left. They decided to send a call for help. It was a message of peace, sent on every channel in every language they could translate. It was a cry from the heart, filled with fear and hope. They asked for anyone to come, anyone who could stop the Zarn. The message moved through space like a whisper. It passed dead planets, empty stations, and quiet stars. It was a weak signal, easy to miss. Most ships ignored it. Some listened and turned away. The Valari were not known. Their problems were not the problems of others, but someone did hear. Far from the Valari space, a human patrol ship picked up the signal. The UFS Valor was flying a quiet route near the edge of human territory. Captain Lauren Bishop was in her chair reading the latest reports. The crew was calm. They did not expect anything. Then the signal came through. It was old and broken, but clear enough. The voice spoke of pain and fear. It begged for help. The words were not human, but the meaning was strong. Lauren listened to it twice. Then she called the crew to attention. "This is real," she said. "They need help." The location of the signal was far. It was near the edge of known space, close to the territory of the Zarn. Lauren knew what that meant. She opened a channel to Fleet Command. She sent the message and her report. Admiral Curtis Lane read the report in his office. He was a calm man, not quick to act without thought. But when he saw the word Zarn in distress, he knew what must be done. "Alert the fleet," he said. "Prepare to move." Humans were not known for peace. Their world, Earth, was a hard place. Storms, fires, wild animals, and long wars had shaped them. They learned to survive in pain. That made them strong. That made them dangerous. Aliens had a name for them. They called them Deathworlders. The United Fleet came together fast. 60 ships built for war left Earth and its colonies. The ships were large, gray, and full of power. They were ready for battle. Soldiers packed into carriers. Tanks and fighters were loaded. Engines roared to life. Lauren Bishop stood in front of her crew. Her voice was steady. "We are going to help, but we are not going for peace. We are going to fight." Beside her was Commander Rachel Brooks. She had served in many battles. She nodded and said, "It's the only language they will understand." In the hangar, young pilot Sean Duffy checked his fighter. He had never seen real war, but he was ready. His hands moved quickly. His eyes were sharp. "Let's show them what Deathworlders do," he said. The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Stars became lines of light. The ships vanished into the deep. The Valari Alliance watched the stars. They waited. They did not know who had heard their message. They hoped for help, but they feared what kind of help might come. On the edge of their space, sensors picked up movement. A fleet was coming. Big ships, fast ships. Not Zarn. Something else. Counselor Dean stared at the screen. He had seen pictures of humans before. He remembered stories of fire, blood, and war, but also of protection and strength. He turned to the council. Help has arrived, but we must be ready. Humans are not like us. In the silence that followed, the sky began to change. The Deathworlder fleet had come. The war was about to begin. Captain Lauren Bishop stood on the bridge of the UFS Valor. Her eyes were fixed on the stars ahead. The distress signal from the Valari played again in her mind. The fear in the alien voice had been real. She had no doubt that the Valari were in danger. The signal was weak, but the meaning was strong. Help us. Please. Anyone. Lauren knew it was a long way from human space to the Valari worlds, but she also knew the fleet had to go. The Zarn were not just a danger to the Valari. If left alone, they would spread. They would attack again and again, until no peaceful race was safe. She walked to the control panel and gave the order. Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them the threat is confirmed. Request full support. Fleet Command responded quickly. Admiral Curtis Lane took charge. He was not a man of many words, but when he gave an order, the entire fleet listened. His voice was clear and strong. Prepare for full deployment. We move to Valari space. Soon, ships began to move. The United Fleet was not the largest in the galaxy, but it was one of the most feared. The ships were strong and fast. Each one was built for battle. The hulls were thick. The weapons were deadly. The engines were powerful. Inside the ships, soldiers, trained. They loaded gear, cleaned weapons, and checked systems. There was no music, no noise, just the sound of boots, metal, and orders being followed. Young pilot Sean Duffy checked his fighter. He touched each control, checking for problems. He liked speed. He liked the feel of flying. But this mission was different. This was not a game or a drill. This was war. We are not just flying today, he said to his team. We are going to fight. Commander, Rachel Brooks walked through the halls of the UFS Valor. She watched the soldiers. She saw fear in some eyes, but she also saw strength. These were trained fighters. They had seen hard times before. They would be ready. Rachel walked to the bridge and stood beside Lauren. All ships report ready. Fleet is in position. Lauren nodded. Jump in 3 minutes. When the countdown reached 0, the ships jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched and twisted. Then, in a blink, they were gone. In Valari space, the sky was quiet. The Zarn had attacked many places, but now they waited. Their ships sat in orbit around the Valari worlds. They watched, ready to strike again. Then the human fleet arrived. 60 ships dropped out of hyperspace. Their engines burned bright. Their weapons were armed. The Valari watched in silence. They had never seen ships like these. Counselor Dean stood in the great chamber of the Valari Council. He looked at the human ships on the screen. They looked like beasts of war. He felt fear, but also a small hope. A message came from the human fleet. It was short and clear. This is the United Fleet of Earth. We received your signal. We are here to stop the Zarn. Do not interfere. The council did not answer right away. They were shocked by the tone. But Dean spoke up. We asked for help. This is what help looks like. Let them do what they came to do. Back on the UFS Valor, Lauren gave new orders. Scout teams, move out. Fighters, sweep the nearby systems. Find the Zarn and mark targets. No delay. Sean Duffy flew ahead with his squad. The space was full of broken ships and smoke. They saw what the Zarn had done. Burned cities, floating wreckage, silent colonies. They hit hard, Sean said. Now it's our turn. Lauren watched the scans. The Zarn were nearby. They had many ships. They were ready to fight, but the humans did not fear them. Set up formation, Lauren said. We go in fast and hit hard. The fleet moved like a wave. The ships spread out. Fighters flew ahead. Missiles were loaded. Cannons were aimed. The Deathworlders were ready. On the ground, human troops prepared to land. Tanks rolled into place. Dropships were lined up. Soldiers checked each other's gear. No one smiled. This was not the time for jokes. Major Angela Ross stood in front of her squad. Her voice was strong and cold. We land. We push forward. We do not stop, the Valari called. We answer. The first human attack came fast. Fighters hit the Zarn ships from above. Lasers cut through metal. Explosions lit up space. The Zarn fought back, but the humans kept coming. Lauren watched the battle from the bridge. Her hands were calm. Her voice was steady. Focus fire, no wasted shots, break their line. Commander Brooks gave support orders. Sean Duffy led his team into tight turns, dodging fire and striking hard. He was fast and smart. The Zarn could not catch him. On the ground, human troops landed. Major Ross led the charge. Her team moved through the ruins, clearing out enemies and saving what they could. In the Valari council chamber, they watched it all. The skies full of fire, the ground shaking, the sound of war. They had asked for help. Now, they saw what help looked like. Counselor Dean whispered to himself, "They are not like us, but they are fighting for us." The first wave of battle ended with the humans in control. The Zarn were pushed back. The Valari were safe for now. But this was only the beginning. Lauren looked at the map. She saw more Zarn forces coming. She knew this war was not over. "We're not done yet," she said. The Deathworlders had come, and they were just... Smoke rose from the burning ground. Broken Zarn machines were scattered across the battlefield. The sound of weapons had stopped for now, but the air still shook with the memory of battle. Human soldiers moved through the ruins, checking for traps and wounded. The sky was gray with ash. Major Angela Ross led her team past a fallen Zarn walker. Its legs were twisted, and fire burned inside its dark body. She signaled for her soldiers to stop and spread out. Her voice came through the radio. "Watch the corners. The Zarn don't always die the first time. They moved with care. These troops were trained for war. They had seen death. They did not speak much. They did not need to. Each step was practiced. Each move was sure. Above them, the human fleet stayed in orbit. The UFS Valor watched over the ground like a guardian. Captain Lauren Bishop stood in the war room reading the latest reports. She looked tired but focused. Commander Rachel Brooks stood beside her. She pointed to a new scan. Zarn reinforcements coming in fast. Big ships. Heavy weapons. Lauren nodded. "They want their ground back. They're not getting it." She sent a message to all ships. "Form defense ring. All fighters return to carriers for reload. Prepare for second wave." Sean Duffy landed his fighter with speed and skill. He jumped down and ran to the weapons team. His hands moved fast as he helped reload. Sweat covered his face. "They're coming again," he said. "Let's be ready." On the Vellery homeworld, Counselor Dean walked through the halls of the great tower. The walls were covered in dust from the falling ash. He looked through a tall window and saw the human ships like dark shapes in the sky. A young Valari aide came to him. Her voice was soft. "They saved us, but they also brought the war here." Dean nodded. "Yes, but we called them. And now we must trust them." Back on the surface, Major Ross's team reached a destroyed village. The buildings were low and round, made from stone and glass. Nothing was left untouched. The Zarn had burned everything. One soldier pointed. Movement ahead could be survivors. Ross gave the signal. "Approach slow, no sudden moves." They moved forward and found a group of Valari huddled under broken walls. Children, elders, and a few adults stared at the humans with wide eyes. They looked scared but alive. Ross took off her helmet and knelt down. She reached out a hand. "You're safe now. We're here to help." A Valari elder stepped forward. He touched her hand and nodded. "We have nothing left." Ross stood. "We will protect what is left. You are not alone." Soon, more Zarn ships arrived. The sky turned red with fire again. The battle above started fresh. Human ships formed lines and moved like a machine. Cannons fired. Missiles launched. Fighters danced through the sky. Sean was back in his cockpit. His voice was calm as he spoke to his team. Same plan, fast and sharp. Hit them before they can lock on. They flew into the middle of the fight. He fired again and again. One Zarn ship exploded in front of him. Another tried to escape but was caught in a missile blast. "Good hit," said one of his wingmates. "Stay close," Sean answered. "We're not done." In space, the UFS Valor took heavy fire. Shields flashed. Metal shook. Lauren gave orders with a calm voice. "Bring forward batteries online. Focus fire on their lead ship." Brooks watched the data. "Hull at 70%. We hold here or we lose the ground." Lauren said, "Then we hold." Down. Below, human tanks rolled through the remains of a burned forest. They fired at Zarn walkers hidden behind rocks and hills. Troops followed behind, using the smoke for cover. Ross's team pushed forward. She raised her weapon and fired at a charging Zarn soldier. Her team covered both sides of a broken path. They moved like they had done it 100 times. One soldier was hit. He fell, yelling in pain. Another pulled him to cover. Ross called, "Out medic now." The wounded man looked up at her. "Did we stop them?" Ross nodded. "We're not stopping until they're gone." As the second wave ended, the Zarn began to pull back. Their ships turned away, engines burning. The human fleet had stood strong. The ground forces had held every line. In the war room, Lauren watched the retreat. She did not smile. "They'll be back," she said. Brooks looked at her. "We gave them something to remember." Lauren said, "Yes, but this was only one world. There are more out there, and the Valari can't fight alone." Later that night, a meeting was held between the Valari leaders and the human officers. Counselor Dean stood before them. "You saved us. We owe you more than we can say." Lauren looked at him. "We didn't come for thanks. We came because you asked, and because the Zarn must be stopped." Dean said, "We are not a people of war, but maybe it is time we learn." Ross stepped forward. "We can train you. We can teach you to defend yourselves, but you must be ready. The Zarn will not stop." Dean looked around the room. His voice was quiet but clear. "Then we will not stop either." Outside, human soldiers helped Valari children out of shelters. Medics gave water and food. Engineers fixed broken lights. Slowly, life returned to the damaged land. Sean sat on a rock, helmet by his side. He looked at the stars. "They thought we were monsters," he said to himself. "Maybe we are, but we fight for the right reasons." The night was quiet for now, but war still waited in the dark, and the Deathworlders were ready. The stars were quiet, but the humans knew it was only for a short time. The Zarn had lost one battle, but not the war. They would return. Captain Lauren Bishop read the reports coming in from scout ships. There was movement near the outer Valari, colonies, more Zarn forces, more signs of attack. "We need to move fast," Lauren said, "before they strike again." The fleet began to shift. Ships moved into new positions. Supplies were loaded. Weapons were checked again. Human soldiers got little rest, but they were used to that. War gave no time for sleep. Sean Duffy stood beside his fighter. He watched engineers refuel it. His hands were dirty with oil and his eyes were tired. "They hit Colony 3, he said to another pilot. "Not many made it out." "Then we make them pay," the other pilot answered. Major Angela Ross and her team rode in a transport over a dry wasteland. They were heading to the edge of Valari space where survivors were hiding. The area was known for rocky cliffs and dark caves. The Zarn used it to set traps. "We go in quiet," Ross told her team. "No lights, no talking unless needed." The transport dropped them off under cover of night. The sky was dark, but the stars gave some light. The soldiers moved like shadows. They passed broken homes and burned trees. In one cave, they found Valari survivors. Most were young. One woman held a baby wrapped in cloth. They looked up with fear when the humans entered. Ross lowered her weapon. "We're here to get you out. Stay close." Back in space, the UFS Valor led the fleet toward the enemy. Commander. Rachel Brooks stood beside Lauren. The ship felt tense. Everyone knew what was coming. We hit their fleet before they land, Brooks said. Take out their leaders. Lauren nodded. Show no mercy. The humans jumped into the enemy zone. In seconds, red lights filled the bridge. Enemy ships were everywhere. The Zarn had been waiting. Shields. Up, Lauren ordered. All ships, battle formation. Sean took off with his squad. The sky filled with fire. Human and Zarn fighters clashed in fast turns and loud strikes. Lasers lit up the darkness. Explosions shook the black space. Stay with me, Sean said. Watch the sides. They're coming from all directions. His ship rolled through a cloud of smoke. A Zarn fighter appeared in front of him. He fired. The enemy ship burst apart. On the surface, Ross's team led the Valari through broken ground. Zarn drones circled overhead. The team moved faster. Behind the ridge, Ross pointed. We hold there until pickup. Gunfire echoed as the drones spotted them. The humans returned fire. The Valari dropped low, covering their heads. One soldier was hit. Ross dragged him behind a rock. He was breathing hard but alive. Keep firing, she shouted. We hold this line. In orbit, the UFS Valor took a direct hit. The ship rocked. Sparks flew from the walls. Crew members held onto rails. Alarms sounded. Damage report, Lauren said. Brooks checked the screen. Hull breach on deck 5. Fire teams on it. We can still fight, Lauren said. Then keep firing. Focus on their command ship. The ship's cannons turned and fired. A wave of blasts hit the Zarn command ship. The enemy shields failed. The next blast hit the core. The Zarn ship exploded in a flash of light. That's one down, Brooks said. But more came. The Zarn were like a tide, endless and strong. Human ships started to fall back. The fight was hard. The enemy had no fear. They did not run. Sean's voice came through the radio. They're surrounding our left side. We need backup, Lauren answered. Sending reinforcements. Hold your ground. On the surface, Ross's team was running low on ammo. The drones kept coming. She looked at the sky. Smoke trails from ships crossed above them. Where is our pickup? She asked. 2 minutes, came the voice from command. We don't have 2 minutes, Ross said. She turned to her team. Use grenades. Take them all if you must. We protect these people. The soldiers threw grenades into the air. The blasts tore through the drones. The team moved fast, covering the Valari as they ran. Finally, the dropship arrived. The door opened and soldiers helped pull the survivors in. Ross and her team were last aboard. As they lifted off, one last drone fired. The blast hit the E side of the dropship. Ross held onto a rail. Is everyone in? All safe, the pilot said. We're heading back. In space, the tide of battle began to turn. The Zarn had lost their command ship. The humans were pushing forward again. One by one, enemy ships fell. Lauren gave her final order. All ships forward, break their line. The human fleet moved like a blade. They cut through the enemy ranks. Sean and his team flew ahead, clearing the path. The last Zarn cruiser exploded. Silence. Returned to space. The fight was over. Back on the UFS Valor, Lauren sat down at her chair. She closed her eyes for a moment. Brooks stood beside her. We held the line, Brooks said. Yes, Lauren answered, but the war is not done. Ross and her team returned with the survivors. Medics took the wounded. Children were given food and water. The Valari looked at the humans with new eyes. Not as monsters, but as protectors. Ross walked through the ship, her armor scratched and burned. She found a quiet spot and sat down. Her team joined her. We made it, one said. Ross nodded. For now. Sean landed his fighter and looked up at the stars. They'll be back, he said. Lauren looked at the map. More enemy forces were out there. More battles would come. We keep going, she said. Until the Zarn are gone. The fleet would move again. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and they would not stop until peace was won by fire. The stars were calm again, but everyone knew it would not last. The Deathworlder fleet had won many battles, but the Zarn were not finished. Their forces had pulled back into deeper space. There they were building something big. Captain, Lauren Bishop looked at the new scans. She stood in the war room with her hands on the table. The hologram showed a massive Zarn structure. It was deep inside a red system, far from any Volari world. It looks like a base, Commander Rachel Brooks said. Maybe more, Lauren nodded. They're planning something. We end it there. The fleet prepared for the final mission. Ships were repaired. Supplies were gathered. Soldiers trained day and night. There was no room for mistakes. This would be the last and greatest battle. Major Angela Ross checked her team's weapons. She stood in the middle of the loading bay. Her soldiers were quiet but ready. They had seen too much to be afraid now. This is it, she said. We take the fight to them. We end this war. Sean Duffy sat in the pilot's seat of his fighter. He looked out at the stars. His voice came through the radio. Let's make this count. The Deathworlder fleet jumped into the red system. The stars here burned low. The Zarn base floated above a broken moon. It was huge. Ships and weapons circled it like flies. All ships begin the attack, Lauren said. The battle started fast. Human fighters rushed forward. Cannons fired. Missiles streaked across the black sky. Sean flew at the front, dodging blasts and returning fire. Target the shield towers, he called. We bring it down together. On the ground below the base, Ross and her team landed with other strike units. They moved across the rocky moon, using shadows for cover. The Zarn had built towers and bunkers all across the area. Ross raised her hand. Split up, take out the power cores. They moved quickly. Explosions lit the ground as they fought their way through. One by one, the Zarn fell. The humans were fast and strong. They had trained for this. Back in orbit, the UFS Valor took fire. The ship shook, but it held firm. Their defenses are heavy, Brooks said. Lauren looked at the screen. Keep going, we break through. Sean flew past a burning enemy cruiser. His fighter took a hit, but he stayed in control. I see the tower, he said. Going in. He fired a blast that hit the main shield tower. The Zarn shield flickered and dropped. A cheer rose across the fleet. Shield is down, Lauren said. All ships strike the core. Ross's team reached the base wall. Explosives were placed. The wall blew open and they stormed inside. The Zarn were waiting, but the humans moved fast. Room by room, they cleared the halls. A young soldier beside. Ross was hit. She pulled him to safety. Stay with me, she said. The soldier nodded. Finish the mission. Ross and her team reached the control room. The Zarn commander stood there. It was tall, with sharp armor and glowing eyes. It spoke in a deep voice. You do not belong here. Ross raised her weapon. Neither do you. The fight was hard. The Zarn commander was strong, but Ross and her team worked together. At last it fell. Plant the charge, Ross said. They set a bomb at the power core. The timer ticked down. Everyone out, Ross shouted. They ran back through the base. Fire spread behind them. The ground shook. Explosions followed them as they reached the exit. Outside, dropships came down. They jumped in just as the base blew apart. Fire and metal rose into the sky. From orbit, the human fleet watched the blast. The Zarn ships froze, then began to flee. They're retreating, Brooks said. Lauren nodded. Don't chase. We've done enough. Sean's fighter returned to the Valor. He stepped out, his uniform dirty and torn, but he was smiling. We hit them hard, he said. Ross's team arrived back on the ship. Medics rushed to help the wounded. Ross looked around. Most of her team was safe. She nodded to them. We did it. Lauren spoke to the fleet. Her voice went out to all ships. The Zarn are broken. Their base is gone. Their forces are scattered. This war is over. You did what no one else could. You answered the call. You stood when others ran. You fought not for power, but for peace. You are the shield of the weak, the fire in the dark. You are the Deathworlders. On the Volari homeworld, the people watched the sky. They saw the message, they saw the return of the human ships, they cheered, they wept. The humans had saved them. Counselor Dean spoke to his people. They came when we had no hope. They stayed when the battle grew dark. And now, because of them, we have a future. Ross stood on the ground with her helmet under her arm. A Valari child ran to her and gave her a flower. She took it with a smile. Sean walked beside his fighter. He looked up at the stars. Maybe now, they'll leave us alone, he said. But if not, we'll be ready. Lauren watched the stars from the bridge. The war was over, but she knew the galaxy was still dangerous. The fleet would stay sharp. The lessons would not be forgotten. The Deathworlders had come from the deadliest planet in the galaxy. Others had feared them. But now, they were something more. They were protectors, and their story was only... Even though the war was over, the galaxy did not become peaceful overnight. There were still dangers, old and new. Captain Lauren Bishop knew this well. She stood on the bridge of the UFS Valor, looking out into space. Her ship was no longer at war, but it was still ready. "How many reports today?" she asked. Commander Rachel Brooks handed her a tablet. 3 colony threats, 1 missing ship, and 1 strange signal from deep space. Lauren looked at the screen. "Strange signal?" "Yes," Brooks said. "It came from beyond the last marked system. We don't know who sent it. It doesn't match any known language." Lauren nodded. "Then we check it out." The fleet had changed. Some ships had returned home. Others stayed with the Valor. These were the ships that wanted to protect, not just fight. They were not soldiers anymore. They were guardians. Major Angela Ross was training new recruits on a barren moon. Her team had become legends. The young soldiers looked up to her. "Being strong is not enough," she told them. "You must also know when to help, when to lead, and when to stand down." Sean Duffy was on a space station fixing his fighter. The war had taken much from him, but flying still gave him peace. He saw a group of children watching him. "You ever flown one of these?" Sean asked with a smile. The children shook their heads. He opened the cockpit and let them climb in. Their laughter filled the hangar. "It's not just a weapon," he said. "It's a promise that will be there when others call." Back on the Valor, Lauren gave the order. "Set course for the signal." The fleet moved through space like a river. Days passed. Then they reached the edge of the known galaxy. There they found something unexpected. A broken station, old and silent, floating in darkness. "Life signs?" Lauren asked. Brooks checked the screen. Faint, just one, inside the central room. Ross and her team boarded the station. The air was thin, lights flickered, metal walls were marked with old burns. They moved slowly, weapons ready. Inside the central room they found a being. Not Zarn, not Valari, something else. It was tall and thin with deep black eyes. It was hurt, but alive. Ross stepped forward. "Who are you?" The being spoke in a soft voice. "I am the last of the Morai. We watched your war. We saw your fire. Now I bring a warning." Ross called Lauren. "You need to hear this." Lauren and Brooks joined them in the station. The Morai sat on a low bench, breathing slowly. "We were once many," it said. "We lived in peace, but then they came. Not the Zarn. Something older. Something darker." "What are they?" Lauren asked. "They are called the Hollow," the Morai said. "They consume stars. They turn worlds into dust." The room grew quiet. Even Brooks looked worried. "They sleep now," the Morai said. "But your war shook the stars, and they are starting to wake." Lauren asked, "Where are they?" The Morai pointed to a map, far beyond the edge, a place no ship had gone. "You must prepare," it said. "What is coming cannot be stopped alone." The Morai gave them data before its eyes closed. It had given all it could. Ross closed her eyes. Another race lost. Another warning given. Back on the Valor, Lauren studied the data. The Hollow were real. And they were moving. "We need allies," Brooks said. "We need to warn the galaxy," Lauren said. Messages were sent to every race. The Valari answered first. Counselor Dean came to speak with them in person. "You saved us once," he said. We will stand with you again. Others were slower to believe. Some feared, some laughed, but a few listened. Slowly, a new force began to rise. Not just humans, not just Valari, but many. Ross trained soldiers from different races. Sean flew with pilots from strange worlds. The fleet was no longer just Deathworlders. It was something new. Lauren stood before the full crew. Faces from many planets looked up at her. The war is over, but our mission is not. There is something coming. We may be the last line of defense. We will stand ready. Not as conquerors, but as protectors. As one. The stars stretched ahead of them. Somewhere out there, the hollow stirred. But now, the galaxy was not alone. The fleet of Deathworlders and their new allies waited in the dark, ready. And when the next call came, they